Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I'm reviewing a pen from Majohn. Majohn is a Chinese company that used to be Moonman. They changed their name due to some legal action. And the pen I'm looking at today is this one. This is the M400 model. This is a pen that is reminiscent of elements from a number of different pens, but has a nice style about it that I enjoy. So I'm going to talk about the parts and features, all that kind of thing, writing sample, pros and cons. Let's get started. Okay, so top of the pen has this very simple gold disc in the top, and then the white sort of plastic acrylic there travels along until we get to the clip band. The clip is not, I wouldn't say rigid, but it's definitely sort of on the stiffer side, and it's got a little ball on it there, which makes it very usable in different sorts of pen cases and pockets and things like that. The cap continues along, it swells ever so slightly, and then we get this gold band, and then this gold sort of center band there with the sort of the laser, I suppose it's laser etched Greek key kind of figure, and then another gold band, more of the white cap, and then we step down onto the barrel, which is this blue marbled acrylic, which actually is very attractive. I like that a lot. Rich dark blues, very much my brand. Continues along, then a gold ring, and then a white end cap there. Now, it is not a piston filling pen, so a lot of people might think that looks like a piston knob. It's just the end cap. The cap unscrews in about 1 3/4 turns, revealing these gold coloured threads, and they're super smooth, no issues there whatsoever. Tapered section, little flare out, and then this Moonman branded nib, which is a round number 6 size nib with a plastic feed. This is a medium, very simple design on the nib there. The barrel of the pen unscrews, and this is where we get the Majohn logo lasered in there, which I actually love the fact that Majohn do put it on that. Moonman used to do that as well on some of their pens, and it's a placement I really enjoy. It takes the branding off the face of the pen, which is, I think, a nice touch. But it's interesting, they've got the Moonman nib still, and then the Majohn on the barrel there. So it comes with a converter. It is not quite standard international. You might get some standard internationals that can work in there, but it is not quite standard international. So just keep that in mind. So in a lot of ways, this is a fairly simple pen. It's clean, it's elegant, it's a design I quite enjoy. It posts nicely, and it's a nice size pen. The balance of the pen is okay in that posted form, and it's just long enough to be quite comfortable in that way. Some people might find it just a touch short here when it is unposted, but I can get away with this. Size comparison here with the Lamy Safari, it's a little shorter than the Lamy Safari. Not by a lot, but I think it actually feels considerably smaller in the hand for some reason. I think because it's got a slightly girthy body, it feels sort of shorter and chunkier, even though it's actually not a bad size pen. Uncapped, it is quite a lot shorter here than a Lamy Safari, but it does have the larger nib size. Makes it nicer in the hand, and as I said, it does post quite well. And posted, it comes in at a pretty decent length there, only just marginally shorter there than the Lamy Safari, which is not a small pen in itself. So what are the dimensions of the Majohn M400? Well, it's 136 millimeters when it is capped. It's 120 when it is uncapped. So as I said, for some people, this might be an okay size to write with unposted. It's how I tend to find myself writing with it. And then posted, it is 165 millimeters, so not super long. The section is actually fairly good. It's like 11 to 12 millimeters, so it's a fairly decent width. And the widest point on the pen around the cap band there is about 16 millimeters. Good size pen, like nice girth. The pen weighs 33.5 grams, 21 in the body and 12.5 in the cap. So when you do post it, you're putting a little over 1/3 of the body weight on the back of the pen. But because of that size, you don't feel it so much. It's not like it's right out back behind your hand. It's usable in that format, if not perfect. So what does the Majohn M400 cost? Well, I Googled it today, and I found it for $20 and up US, or 30 and up Australian dollars. So it's not a hugely expensive pen. It's not a cheap pen. It's not a cheap Chinese pen. There are certainly much cheaper pens, thinking of like the Jinhao 82, which you can get for $3 or $4 on a good day. But it's a nice pen, and it's actually got, I think, quite a nice look and some details that give it a bit of a luxury feel. Time for a writing sample now. We've got the Majohn M400. So this is a steel medium nib, and I think the nib is like vaguely in-house, I think, but not my favorite nib. The ink in this is Backpack ink, London Navy, which is kind of like almost a blue-black, sort of greeny blue-black, greeny grey blue-black. It's a lot of colours, but it's a wonderful, wonderful ink. I enjoy it a lot. I actually really enjoy this brand. If you're not familiar, you should check it out. Still writing sample. Okay, so in what I call concentrated writing or deliberate writing, the pen writes very, very well. But what you would have noticed up here at the top was that there was a hard start there. And when I do quick writing, you can see there are a number of spots where it just skips and runs dry. I wouldn't say it's a dry nib. Like, it's not super wet, but it's definitely, you know, it's on the drier side, and it is stiff. Like, it's a very stiff, rigid nib. Reverse writing dries out and starts to, run dry, that kind of stuff. As I said, in deliberate, concentrated writing, you can get an okay, if you slow down, you get an okay line, and it does lay down some decent shading from the ink and all those kinds of things. Faster writing, or if you leave it for a few minutes, you are going to get like skips and hard starts. As I said, these Moonman Majohn nibs are not my favorite. I'll talk about this more in the pros and cons, but I have often found that they write like this. Now, I could tune this, and I probably will. I'll, put it on some micro mesh, all that kind of stuff. I will do some stuff to make it a slightly wetter, because I do enjoy the pen model, as derivative as it may be. But this is what I do often find from their nibs. So what are the pros and cons? Well, a big con has to be that nib. As I said, it's not my favorite. It's smooth enough. There's a bit of drag on it. It's kind of quite feedbacky. But the hard starts and that sort of not the drying out, but the skipping or running dry is an issue I have with their nibs in general. I've found that with a number of different pens and a number of different brands who use nibs like this. So there are a couple of brands who get their pens made by the same kinds of OEM makers, original element maker people, who make bits and pieces for different pen brands. They are brands that are much more expensive than this, and there are brands that are cheaper than this. And I can pick them a mile off. The way they feel on the page is exactly the same. And there's a number of brands that are made by different people who have the same kind of thing as well. So it's an issue. Now, as I said, you can tune them, you can do some work, make them smoother, make them flow better, all that kind of stuff. It's just a shame that you kind of have to when there are pen brands. I'll use Jinhao as the example again. Now, they're not perfect, but those Jinhao 82s, I've had a number of them, and I really have always enjoyed how they've written out of the box. And it's not a box. They mostly come in a plastic sleeve, but you know what I mean. And speaking of packaging, it's another kind of con with Majohn, is that it's inconsistent. Like, mine literally came in an envelope, in a plastic sleeve, just with the little instruction manual. It was nice to get an instruction manual. It gives a rundown of different sort of filling systems and how to use them and all that kind of thing. Like that's handy. But often Moonman pens come packaged nicely, in like little boxes and things. So it's inconsistent depending on where you get them from and the seller and all of that kind of stuff. It's just things to keep in mind. There are pros with this pen. Firstly, I like the size of the pen, and I like the width of the section. It feels very comfortable in my hand. I think the price is a pro. At that $20 mark, or around there and up, it's a fairly decent looking pen with decent build quality and all of that. So it's a pen that's perhaps worth the money. And if you're willing to pay this kind of money and then have to do a bit of nib tuning, then that is something that you can do. It's not a problem. But I really do enjoy this design. I have to say, I like this color combination. And there are a few different color combinations. There's an orange one and a green one and things like that. I like the mix of the white acrylic, and there are a couple, like there was that Laban pen I've reviewed in the past, the Laban Flame and Solar, which does a similar kind of thing. I like that. I like that mix of the white and the colored acrylic for the barrel. And it's one of the few color combinations I prefer gold trim. I normally prefer a silver trim, like here with my Memento Zero, silver trim on the dark colored pen. When it's on white, I like the gold. I like some of these design elements that are reminiscent of Italian brands, the wheel clip, the Greek key, that kind of thing, like the little peaked end on the end cap there. I enjoy those elements, and yeah, I think it is modeled. Also, there's a hint of the Pelican about this as well. I don't have a Pelican M400, but same model number, and I think it's around the same kind of size as this. So maybe a touch smaller, but there's definitely elements that are tied in with a lot of these pens. So Moonman do some interesting things. They do some derivative things. This is on the derivative side of that, but it's not an unattractive pen in its own right. So this was the Majohn or Moonman M400. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. Please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all of that kind of stuff. If you've got products you think I should be looking at, or if there's a way you would like to support my channel by sponsoring a review or providing an item for review, I would love to hear from you. After all, it is your support that makes this channel possible, and even things like the ad revenue from YouTube goes towards purchasing pens like this that I can share with you. So thank you for watching. Enjoy your pens. Enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.